Hello and welcome to Channel's Book Club. It's great to be on the show again. This is where we discuss all things books. We've got an interesting session today and I hope you will enjoy yourself. Ken Ugbechie, veteran journalist, came out with a book recently, Nigeria, Heroes and Sheroes. Interesting one. He joined us to discuss it, but before we get into that discussion, let's get to meet with him.
Ken Ugbechie is a veteran journalist whose experiences cut across proofreading, writing, editing, and publishing. Ugbechie is a multidisciplinary graduate of the University of Lagos, Zoology and Mass Communication. He also has a postgraduate diploma in media law at the London School of Journalism. Ugbechie worked as an editor at Daily Times, a columnist at Business Day, and an editorial board member of Champion Newspapers. He is the current editor-in-chief and publisher of Political Economist, NG Magazine. He's also a member of the World Editors Forum, the International Press Institute, and Guild of Corporate Online Publishers. Ken Ugbechie joins Channel's Book Club to discuss his book, Nigeria, Heroes and Sheroes, Diary of a Journalist of Courage.
Mr. Ugbechie, nice to have you on Channel's Book Club.
My pleasure to be here.
Great. I remember an event I was in, and the former president called me, and he said, "You need to work on how you pronounce Nigerian names."
Exactly.
I said there are over 450 ethnic groups in Nigeria. How am I supposed to master?
Where do you start from? But for a broadcaster, I think it's a good advice.
It is, absolutely. I'm working on it very hard.
Well, you got my name right.
I got that right.
Yeah, Ugbechie.
That's a 5-star for me.
You got that.
I will perfect it. So thank you very much for joining us on Channel's Book Club.
Always nice to be here.
I mean, you've had a career in journalism. What's that? I like to ask people that I meet who have been in a career for so many decades.
Yeah.
Give us a peep into that world. When you look at the world as somebody who has had that career for many decades, how has it shaped the way you see the world?
In very many ways. But first and foremost, I want to say something. I'm an accidental journalist. I am basically a science student who happened to, just fresh from school certificate, exam, and then coming to Lagos. Brilliant science student in secondary school. Now, those days, you can work with your school cert. Not these days, anyway. And I mean, critical positions, like I started as a proofreader with school cert in the Daily Times of old. That alone changed the direction, the trajectory of my life, my career, because I also discovered that I have this flair for writing. When I was in secondary school, St. Anthony's College, my hometown of Buluku, Delta State, my colleagues, my classmates used to call me essayist, but I was a science student. Essayist in the sense that my essays, according to them, always stands out. And sometimes the teacher has to even read it to the class. But I didn't know that I was that, I had that flair. Something you just do. Because teacher said you should write an essay on this, so you just went to research and you wrote it. But coming to the Lagos and picking up a job in Daily Times made me realize that I can start a career here. And then working in Daily Times then, too, was like having a diplomatic passport. Because Daily Times
we're talking about when now?
Okay, in the early 80s.
In the early 80s?
Yes, I got into Daily Times in 83. Actually, a school start told I was 83. February 14, we had an interview. Very interesting story, actually. We were 40 school start holders who came for a job interview, about 5 of them to be recruited. And it was a one-question interview. In not less than 300 words. I still remember vividly. Tell us why you want to work in the Daily Times. Just one question interview. They wanted to mark our use of English. Yeah. So we wrote our essays that day. It was marked that day. Those days, actually, I would say with certitude and certainty that merit was actually the threshold. There wasn't like, I didn't know anybody, that I didn't have to know anybody. I just got wind and I was helped that, they are having an interview, so and so did. And I came, and the secretary to the personnel manager then said, "No, you've been coming here with your uncle. You didn't come this way that we are shortlisting people. Let me just take one of these." He said, that was the interview letter on a letterhead, or on signed. Let me see whether the personnel manager was signing. He took it to the personnel manager. The man signed, so he wrote my name. And said, "The interview is tomorrow. Come tomorrow.
Come and do it."
So that was how this whole thing started
That's
for me.
a story. Wow.
In fact, my career, I tell people that I am a divine project, and God scripted my life.
Wow.
God scripted in the sense that this thing you are seeing, I write with so much flair, with so much ease. And I didn't know, up to now, I still ask myself, if I had gone into engineering or even medicine, of course, that was the prima donna for those. That was a fancy for us, MBBS. In fact, in our textbook, we used to write, I would write Ken Ugbechie, MBBS, this, that, those things. But those childhood fantasies and fancies. But I didn't know whether I would have enjoyed my job the way I'm enjoying my job now. Because journalism actually gives you a password. Gives you a password to authorities. Gives you a password to places you never dared you will be. You are not going there because of yourself. You are going there because of what you represent, the institution of journalism. And because of what you can offer to the people, the service that you deliver. So it has taken me to governments, heads of governments, international community, traveling the world, all expenses paid. Those are just the things in journalism. Journalism may not put big money in your pocket. But what it does, to me, is a sense of fulfillment. There's certain joy that comes with being published. I remember when my first article was published, incidentally, when I was just young, a school student, I was very adventurous, writing on every topic. I wanted to go beyond being published in evening times of those days, in daily times, Lagos Weekend. So one day I wrote an article for The Guardian. Guardian was just coming out there, and it was very scholarly. So I wrote an article and submitted to The Guardian. Lo and behold, on a Saturday morning, those days we used to have access to newspapers. My colleague were on the proofreading desk, just running off for that morning before we go. Somebody had gone to Ikeja to exchange papers, so we got other papers. And he said, "Kenneth, look at your article in The Guardian. Look at your article in The Guardian. You know what it means? Well, it's because I told her to publish in The Guardian, Intellectual Guardian." At that time, I screamed. My head hit the roof literally. So everybody mobbed me. Then I went to see the article. I forgot that I had my own copy of The Guardian in front of me. I had to go to that one, as if it wasn't in my own copy. So we read through it. I was so excited. But this is built up my confidence. And to dare any topic under the sun. For instance, if you go through this book, it covers almost every topic.
We'll talk about that. I mean, your passion oozes out, and I mean,
Thank you very much.
Oozes out.
Thank you.
And I hope one young person out there is inspired, because our lives don't always go the way we think it will go.
We planned it. Yes. Yes.
And we need that flexibility.
Yes.
Especially when you are young. Young people need to have that flexibility.
And then to adapt to the paradigm shift.
Yeah, and you may find yourself, you may find your path when you do that. Fantastic story. Fantastic. Now, Nigeria heroes and Sheroes. I like that word, Sheroes.
Everybody keeps talking about Sheroes. That's the captivating word. It was intentional.
I know. I'm going to prick you on that. Diary of a journalist of courage. So tell us about what inspired this book, what it's about, and tell us about Sheroes.
Okay. I said it. I've traveled the world truly on the wings of journalism. And I've discovered that every country I went to, because I'm an adventurous person, really. When I get into town, I dissolve. I want to talk to people. I went to places. I visit people, the real people there in that locality. I discovered that the picture they present to us is not actually what it is there. Sometimes these people have more crimes than us. Sometimes these places are filthier than any part of Nigeria you can even imagine. But they don't project those pictures. So when I was trying to get this book, because this is just a collection of some of my works, I was intentional. I was very consciously deliberate about it. I was very deliberate that I want to put Nigeria's feet, the best feet forward. That's what I did with this book. It's my own personal attempt at helping to rebrand Nigeria by telling the world that, look, You may call us a 419 nation. You may call us scammers. You may call us the dark continent, part of the dark continent of dark country, whatever name you want to tag us. But there are bright sparks in our midst. There are people who are doing exploits. I didn't capture all of them, but for those that I put forward, you can go and scrutinize what they have done and what I said they did. And why I put it this way is that for the world to know that this country, Nigeria, has in her bowel men and women of distinction, men and women who can take up a task and excel in it, men and women who are development-centric. Because this book, I keep telling people, it's all about development. So when people see Nigeria heroes and sheroes, it's different from Nigeria is a nation of scammers. So this is my own personal attempt at rebranding Nigeria and telling the world that we are very good people.
So for the sake of viewers out there, can you run through the structure of the book? I can see media, polity, society, sports. So how many of such sections
we have about
and how many articles are here?
Actually, 10 segments. 10 segments, a 644-page book. Well, that's including cover to cover now, 644. But what I was able to achieve with this is to cover the whole gamut of life. Because there's also humanity, aspects of humanity, from sports to telecom, that's technology, then politics. Then I now dwell so much on heroes and sheroes, where I now projected those Nigerians that have been flying the Nigerian flag brilliantly. Well, you can see oddities. There's another like oddities. Some things are also, I said Diary of a Journalist of Courage, and that was also deliberate. The choice of Diary of a Journalist of Courage, because it takes a journalist of courage to say that among a people counted and tagged as underdeveloped people, that there are people who are also development-minded. Among the people they say they are failures, there are patches and pockets of successes. So it takes a journalist of courage, and that's where I write from a perspective of personal conviction. I'm not a bandwagon person. I will not say A is good because everybody is saying it. I scrutinize things, and I make up my mind on what I think this is, where it's leading to. And I've made projections in my very brief journalism career of certain things, and they came to be because of my projection that this is where this one will lead this one to. And they all happened. So I have this knack of foretelling based on the parameters available, based on what I see on the present dashboard, that this is where this will go. So this book is segmented into 10 sections. We have aspects of sports to tell you that we're also a sporting giant. We have aspects on the judiciary to tell you how our judiciary has fared. There is also aspect on oddities. Those are paradoxes. You look at a country that's an OPEC nation, a major producer of crude oil over the years, and it cannot refine your own crude. It cannot refine this same product that you got in commercial quantity as far back as 1956. Up to today, we are still importing finished products. Sad. Meanwhile, some artisans, so let me use the word artisans, I'm not using the quote and unquote, in the Niger Delta Creeks are refining it. So the technology is not rocket science. That's what it tells you. All over the world, we have turnkey refineries. That's what people are doing. Small refineries that you can upgrade. Why not just plant these things everywhere? Because this is actually what affects everybody. See what has happened now. Just because it's deregulated and the subsidy is removed in a manner it was done, everybody is on edge. Everybody, from the market woman to the bourgeois, the employer of labor to the employed. Everybody is affected, and negatively so. So we are all beginning to adjust. We're talking off camera now, how we are now beginning to adjust. And that's it. You look at the meter, first of all, you drive into a filling station, you ask for the price first. Then you make a mental calculation. Once your pocket is telling you. So that's just it. I
was looking at your articles on Villani here, Abba Kyari's double whammy, Akwa Ibom State University,
Yeah.
Buhari worse than diarrhea, Burutai and the gravy train,
Yeah.
Hello Shell, this is hell, Magu in the Magoti mug, Oshiomole and dogs of addiction. Do you get threats at night when you write some of these
No,
things?
definitely. Every writer
Rape,
gets threats.
rape and apes.
Rape and apes.
Rochas and his circus show. Senator Sonny Yerima Tufiakwa. Hey, the fall of Magu and the miracle of Maina.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Those are the villains.
And I was looking for all the things you wrote about the current presidents. So typically when I see books like this, I'm like, I quickly go to the
It's just one article on
index.
him.
Yeah, there's one article on him, but there's also a mention. The article you wrote on him
Yeah, an epigraph, I say.
was positive.
Well,
Yeah.
people, yes, I'm happy
Yeah.
that you're even saying it's
But
positive.
yeah, it's positive. But I think that in that article, you looked at his many sides.
Yes. So
In
it's
the-
a balanced
in the article. Yes, you looked at his many sides.
Yes.
In that, yeah. So at times I'm reading and I think, oh, okay, you are praising his leadership skills,
Yeah.
etc., etc.
Yeah.
I'm reading some other parts,
Yes.
the dark side
Yes.
of him,
Which
and
I
I'm seeing,
courageously mentioned.
yeah,
too.
yeah. But in a previous article about Ambode,
Yeah.
you wrote about his role in what's the word to use now? You spoke about how Ambode and somebody as brilliant as Professor Patu Utomi,
In the casino.
were made to feel stupid
Yeah.
in the field of politics.
Yeah.
You know, and the roles some of the masters of the dark arts of politics,
includes the current
which
president.
includes Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
Yeah.
Yeah, you wrote about how his own role in the Ambode situation and all that. It's quite interesting, and I think, in fairness, I found your entire analysis of him, I found it fairly, balanced.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you wrote the many sides.
Okay, that's one of the articles that got me enemies and got me fans.
Really?
And when it happens that way, you know that you have done a good job.
That was recently, right? During the
Yeah,
election.
when it was published.
Oh, when it was published.
When it was published. You know, these articles published in newspapers. I just collated them. So that's why all of them are dated. So you know at what point in time this one was published. My thought process then and my perception of the person. So when the article was written and it was, of course, it was published and it was shared, both online and offline, people said it was PR for him. Some others also were frowning their faces, who are his fans, and they thought I did a damaging job on him. But I titled it an epigraph. And I tell people, see, an epigraph is a motif, the picture of somebody. Like, you know, the journalist is like a sculptor.
Yeah.
He just carved an image. What I did was to carve the image of the person using words. And you know that this guy has his positive side and has his negative side. He has his bright side, he has his dark side. And I presented all of them.
Right.
So when you read it, and for most of the journalists, senior journalists that I read, they said, this is the picture of this man. That's balanced.
Yeah.
You went this way and you went this way.
But for everybody else, it depends on the glasses you are wearing.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Well, unfortunately, time is not our friend. But I think viewers probably get the picture of what we have here.
Thank you very much.
So many things you've written about over so many years. Akwa Ibom, Akpabio, Dambata's 5 years, Micah Denuga, and all that.
Yeah.
This is where we have to end.
Thank you
this
so
interview
much.
because of our time. Thank you very much for joining us on Channels Book Club.
I'm happy to be here always.
Great to have
Thank
you
you
here.
very much.
Thank you. Journalists are a special breed, and what a special time we had with Ken Ugbechie. Get yourself a copy of that book. There's a lot in there. Up next, we had such a good time at the U.S. consulate recently where there was a special interactive session with writers. Oh, it was such a good time. Enjoy this.
The United States Consulate in Lagos hosts the Writers Interactive Network WIN to a special book reading session. WIN, a Lagos-based literary club, aims to foster and sustain a connection between writing, creativity, and the society.
Thank you so much.
At the session, the U.S. Consul General William Stevens, his wife Melika Stevens, the Consulate Public Affairs Officer Joseph Krujic, and the Chief Executive Officer of Ake Festival, Lola Shunei, read to the authors.
So this is one of my favorite books from one of my favorite authors.
The U.S. Consul General William Stevens, who is a lover of science fiction, reads from Ender's Game by Orson Scott Card.
I hate this game, he said. It isn't fair. It's stupid. It's rotten. And instead of pushing his face into one of the liquids, he kicked one over and then the other. Dodged the giant's huge hands as the giant shouted, "Cheater, cheater!" He jumped on the giant's face, clambered up his lip and nose, and began to dig into the giant's eyes. The stuff came away like cottage cheese, and the giant screamed. Ender's figure burrowed into the eye, climbed right in, burrowed in and in. The giant fell over backwards. The view shifted as he fell, and when the giant came to rest on the ground, there were intricate lacy trees all around. A bat flew up and landed on the dead giant's nose. Ender brought his figure up to the giant's eyes. "How did you get here?" the bat asked. "Nobody ever comes here." The giant could not answer, of course, so he reached down, took a handful of the giant's eye stuff, and offered it to the bat. The bat took it and flew off, shouting as it went, "Welcome to Fairyland!"
The Chief Executive Officer of Ake Festival, Lola Shunei, reads from her book, The Secret Lives of Baba Segi's Wives.
Mama said it was shameful for a woman to go to church without her husband. And Daddy said Sundays were supposed to be days of rest, as even the Bible itself stipulated. By the time Mama was wailing about me embarrassing my bloodline, I was daydreaming about the peace I would have in my husband's house.
U.S. Consul General's wife Melika Stevens reads from the best-selling Blink by Malcolm Gladwell.
I'll never forget back in November there was a guy from Queens who showed up with a dozen red roses. He gave one to every girl he spoke to. He had a suit on. She gave a half smile. He was ready to go. Speed dating has become enormously popular around the world over the last few years, and it's not hard to understand why. It's the distillation of dating to a simple snap judgment. Everyone who sat down at one of those tables was trying to answer a very simple question. Do I want to see this person again? And to answer that, we don't need an entire evening. We really only need a few minutes.
U.S. Consulate's Public Affairs Officer Joseph Krujic reads an excerpt from the works of two of his favorite American authors, Thomas Wolfe and Ernest Hemingway.
He heard as from a great distance the faint shouts of children playing in the streets, and near at hand the low voices of the people in the houses. He watched the cool, steep shadows and saw how the evening light was moving in the little squares of yards, each of which had in it something intimate, familiar, and revealing. The memory of each person who has lived in it differs from that of any other. We always return to it, no matter who we were or how it was changed.
After the session, the U.S. Consul General, while noting America's interest in Nigerian authors, describes writing as a foundation of diplomacy.
Writers are an inspiration for generations and generations of people, and it's so great to invite Nigerian authors and Nigerian creators to come here and share their works with us, and us to share what's inspired us in our lives. And that kind of people-to-people connections, the ability to work together, it's the foundation of diplomacy, and I'm just glad that we're able to host those kinds of events here.
Participants bear their minds on the reading session.
Things that people take for granted are things that are very important to other people. From the way he described the things that he likes to read, and then the expression of things that he brought out them, makes that you can actually have compassion in the midst of all that you do. That when you read, you actually extract the innermost feelings as a person, and now you can positively impact the society.
All the readings were brilliant. I mean, of course, Lola Shunei was reading from my own book, which is absolutely brilliant, and read it so brilliantly. Then all the selections, I thought they were all really good. Really good. I mean, I'm not like, for instance, I'm not a big fan of science fiction, but when I heard the reading, that excerpt, I actually downloaded the book on my phone, so I'm going to listen to it, just because I was so interested in what he said. It was very good.
The president of WIN, Abraham Onoja, speaks on the motive behind the group's collaboration with the United States Consulate.
Listening to eminent speakers of this sort read has sent a lot of message to people out there to be able to inspire them to read for those who don't read, and then to write for those who write or are scared to write or don't even know how to write. I mean, eventually your work get out there, and then people are motivated, people are inspired.
Lolashinei, while applauding Win for bringing writers together, encourages upcoming ones.
Find your community and find your feet and do as much reading as you can, that will help you find your voice as a writer.
Win's engagement with the U.S. consulate is in line with the group's objective of promoting reading and writing culture in Nigeria.
This is where we have to end the show today. As always, we'll be delighted to get your feedback through any of our social media platforms displayed on your screen. My name is Olakunle Kasobun. Remember, one great book can change your life. Bye-bye.